Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this June 10th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. Don't forget that all of our content is available on a link tree at EOA.network. That takes you to a place where you can find all of the locations where our content is released. Glad that you're here with us. And here in just a little bit, we are going to have LeGrand Superintendent George Mendoza will be with us. How are you, man?
I'm good.
Good.
Second Monday.
Yeah.
Man, I had a good homemade dinner last night. Dude, my host family, that's what I call them. They always, like, chicken, 2 different kinds of potatoes, rice, corn on the cob. Yeah. Yeah. That's my host family.
That's good. We had a thing with my family and grandkids on Friday night. No, Sunday night, excuse me. And I had corn on the cob for the first time.
Oh, I love
corn
on the cob, man. It's butter.
Yeah.
Oh, pepper.
So
I don't even eat salt on it.
Do you eat it off the cob, or do you like?
No, I go animal style on it. Yeah. I cut it off the cob for my mom.
Yeah.
Because she has.
Yeah.
What you call it?
Yeah.
Dentures. Yeah. But the Radke Loudon family, anytime they have leftovers, or when they're just cooking,
your host
want
family,
dinner? Yeah, you want dinner? Like, do I look like the kind of person that's going to tell you I don't want dinner?
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very nice. Very nice of them.
No, man, the weather got hot all of a sudden.
It's not. So it's almost too hot. I'm not going to complain because I love it. I mean, I love the feeling of the sun on me. But like when you get out there and you're just sitting and you're sweating, that's when it's a little bit much for me. And I'm not acclimated yet.
I'm laughing because you and the weather are like there's this really fine place.
It's called being a Southern California.
Where you're not complaining.
Yeah, I know. It's between 70 and like 85.
Is it?
Yeah.
So if you were in a climate like Hawaii.
I've never been there.
I know, but if you were in a climate like that, where literally day and night it is, I mean, it might vary 5 degrees.
Yeah, like
San
Diego.
Would you like that?
That's how San Diego is. Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if it's 75 all year long, I'm good with that. Because you can do, nothing like the weather stops you from doing stuff outside. I don't like that.
Now, I was in Hawaii once. I mean, when I think I was 20, 21, and was traveling with a choir, and we came back through there and had 5 days in Hawaii. And no, I understand why people go there on vacation because
they know that they're not going to have to sit in the house.
Well, and the other thing that was super strange is like when it would rain, it would just be like
done.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's why I went to California out of high school. I was recruited by a lot of schools in Oregon to play baseball, and I said, no, I'm not pitching off of a mound in a gym in the wintertime anymore.
Okay, so so your dedication to good weather goes back a long ways.
Yeah, like from when I was a kid. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
All right.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit. The Mini XRT is a true rocket. It's got a full 1/10 scale Velinian 3S brushless motor. It's power in a compact, take-anywhere size. Mini XRT lives up to its name with unprecedented 55-plus mile-an-hour speed and ferocious acceleration. Backed by race-inspired engineering and unrivaled toughness, the Mini XRT shatters all expectations with big-scale performance and toughness that fits in a backpack. Get yours today at Hobby Habit, just for the fun of it. Those things are cool, man. That's like the Traxxas's like smaller version of their RC car. And I mean, when you're talking 55 miles an hour, I mean, they do have some that go faster than that, but 55 miles an hour is like what you drive on the freeway, and that's with an RC car. It's pretty cool. Pretty short report today, as there's not too much going on sports-wise. They had the Optimus Fishing Derby on Saturday up at Morgan Lake. It was an amazing success with a bunch of kids showing up to get in on the action. Optimus and Weimar ended up giving away thousands of dollars worth of gear and poles and fed everyone both lunch and breakfast. They had donuts for breakfast, coffee, and then burgers and dogs for lunch. And it was just cool. A lot of kids came out. I would say 50 plus kids at least signed up. And like I said, I think the top 3 spots got fishing poles. They gave away these fishing boxes, all kinds of stuff they gave away. And I'll just reiterate, last year alone, Optimus donated over $24,000 to the youth of Union County, which is quite remarkable. That's over $2,000 a month. Yesterday I got to another T-ball game, another Rockin' Sons T-ball game, because I wanted to redo the team picture. That was the best team picture I could get, what we just passed up. I mean, because one kid literally had his hand on his, parts the whole time, and the other kids are looking, and so I found one that was like usable, and it's so fun. These kids are so just absolutely innocent, and they're out there just having a good time. It was crazy that they went on the shady side of Candy Cane Park, and I sat down and it was still wet from the sprinklers. That's how shady it was. It's 95 degrees and I'm sitting in like a puddle yeah, it was wild. This week I'll finally be getting out to Isaiah Jones, who's an EOU basketball commit and 2-time 4A Player of the Year and state champ from Baker. I'll finally be getting his interview out. I've had it done for a while. I just haven't gotten it out. And I'll also be on the lookout for my first Shrine interview of the year, as later on this week, LHS cheerleader Kendall DeYoung will join me in the studio, and so she'll be my first guest as it comes to the Shrine. I don't even know for sure if our LeGrand kids have committed to the game or not. As soon as I know, I'll let you guys know. They haven't started putting out the final roster yet, so once that comes in, I'll start working on getting interviews with the local kids and the coaches up. But that's all I got for you on a Tuesday. AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit, just for the fun of it.
All right. Little kids or something, aren't they?
Dude, it's so fun. I didn't think I'd get so much joy out of just sitting there watching little kids, but it is so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I sit there with a smile. People probably think I'm crazy because I'm just sitting there with this big old camera just grinning from ear to ear. Like, kids are like out there. I mean, Justin's son's out there sitting in the middle of the field just in La La Land, looking around, smiling, and and he looked like me because I'm sitting there, big old smile on my face, sitting on the ground. Yeah,
it's funny because I when my kids were in T-ball, you don't realize until you're there, but it's like somebody hits the ball and everybody goes to where the ball is. I mean, there's no position. I mean, you try and like get them to stay in their place, but
they don't. I mean, my kids were the same way. They just
I mean, it's like throwing a ball out to a group of puppies. It's like they're all trying to find it. Yeah.
And they'll go up there and they'll have like, you should see the faces that they make when they're swinging. Oh my goodness, just absolute. Some of them are like fierce determination. Some of them just big old. Big smile, and then some of them are just like, what am I doing here?
No,
awesome.
And I think that, the thing that's attractive about that, just generally, is people that are super genuine. I mean, they're too young to be sophisticated.
Yeah, they're not. They're innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Yep. So, super attractive. All right, let's do weather.
Clear and hot.
Our weather segment is brought to you by CHD Developmental Disabilities, and there's a number of videos that we've been showing about how to identify people that are at risk and how to report abuse that you see. So let's take a look at the weather. Yep, it's going to be warm again today, but that's how it looks right now. Downtown LeGrand, the intersection of 4th and Adams. So, and let's look at that graphic, Bennett. So 93 today, 55 tonight, and it looks like it's going to be hot until it's going to get down into the 70s on Friday and Saturday, but no substantial moisture, rain out there. 15% chance on Friday, but that's about as good as it gets. So
maybe we're gonna have a dry spring.
Who knows?
I mean, it's been pretty dry so far.
Yeah. So, all righty. Well, thanks CHD for sponsoring our weather segment. All right, we're going to take a break, and we will be right back with LeGrand School District Superintendent George Mendoza. All right, we're back. George Mendoza, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Brent. How are you? Good to see you. Hi, Dodzy.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good. So you got graduation through. You feel like you got another like one more hurdle done.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
more year. I'm always happy about graduation. 93% graduation rate.
Very good.
98% completer rate. The ultimate goal is for kids to go through our school district, learn, grow, get credits, be in sports clubs or activities, and then eventually pass and graduate and become productive citizens. So I love that.
Yeah. So when you say 93%, break that down. What does that mean?
That means from the amount of students that started with us their freshman year that were able to matriculate, get credits, earn credits, and be able to earn the 24 credits required to graduate. 93% of them graduated on time, and then 98% of those students completed. So they either got the GED or they got a modified diploma,
Yeah.
but they still finished, even if they didn't get a traditional regular diploma.
Cool.
That's got to be up a lot from when I was in school.
Yeah, it's a bigger, it's an outcome that the state collects data on. Graduation data is usually looked at as one of the top outcomes for a school district, to make sure that students are learning and growing and passing and moving forward. And even if you think of 98 for a school district that has a class that's about an average of 175, so you think 100, if you had 100 kids, just two not finishing is 98%, and then when you get to almost 200,
it's like 3 and 3.6
Yeah.
or something, 3.7.
So it's not bad. It's pretty good. The larger the location, harder to have deep relationships, or harder to have, I feel seen, I feel understood, I feel valued, I feel connected, but the goal is always like the relationship. If that relationship is strong, if that engagement is there, if that participation is there, kids have a way of passing and moving forward. And so it's not just the learning of math or reading, it's also making it interesting, making it relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of that, what percentage of kids are going on to formal higher education? Do you have any idea?
We don't always collect that kind of data,
You
but
have a
I would
guess?
say at least 50 to 55% move on to a post-secondary, and then I'd say 40% go into the workforce or go into the armed forces and do something that's not necessarily post-secondary. But I mean, in a perfect world, I'd like to see 60 to 70% going into a post-secondary experience, and then 30 to 40 getting into a trade school or getting into another type of career that they want to get into.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask was, do you have any way of measuring that, further education but not college?
We don't do a lot of like I'll just say post-school outcomes and tracking of where people go.
Yeah.
Like we have a hard enough time just tracking who's with us still.
Right, yeah. The data that you do have access to.
The kids that are here, the kids that are with us, and then making sure that they're growing. But that to me would be good to have that kind of information.
Yeah.
Because it has some level of measurement of future success or at least future direction, and knowing where they're going is important.
Well, and it's just so, I mean, you know as well as anybody that there's a lot more emphasis on further education, but not classic. You know, I mean, going into trades and going, you know, just continuing on your training in some manner, you know, and so, which I think I think that's a really good conversation that's been missing for a long time, you know. I mean, I think if Kelly were here, and she has been here, she would, I mean, you guys were together last time, you know. I mean, I think that higher education, what do you call that, traditional higher education?
Higher education?
Yeah.
Going to college?
I mean, I think that they're seeing the results of all of that emphasis on the negative results, because there's just, you know.
You're right. Well, then from the college side of the hat for me is you are seeing less students going into higher education. The cost of higher education is an issue. The return on investment for kids, they're starting to think of, like, for all the money I'm going to spend or all the time I'm going to give, is it worth it for me to go out and pursue that college degree? And if I do a trade instead and do 2 years or 1 year of a trade school, and that income, is it going to be enough so that I'm fulfilled, or I'm happy and I'm getting enough resources or money? And the reality still is, you've seen it kind of tip now, where more people are wanting to go into a trade or get a job, and less are wanting to go to college. And then now you're seeing, let's say, Bachelor of Arts types of positions or Master of Arts types positions aren't getting filled, because more people have chosen to go to trades now and not pursue a college education. So you still got to have, like, you need a mixture of both.
Right.
And I still would say, and I tell people this once in a while, that, you know, having a college education is still, with research and data that's collected, still the best path for future earnings, or still the best path for future health care. All of these things are still very strong when you get a bachelor's degree. And not that I don't want people to get, you know, into a trade, because I'm totally happy if people do trades or career that are different than taking getting a college degree. But the reality is still, college degrees still have a propensity to pay more. So more earnings over time, more pensions or other types of, you know, annuity accounts or retirement accounts. And then the health care is still pretty strong with, I'll just say, career industries that have college degrees. So I'd still say it's you know, for my own children, I want them to get into college.
Well, and I agree with you. I think that, you know, however it happened, I mean, when I look at the trend, I just think that in higher education, whether they were a part of it or not, part of the result of the emphasis on trades, one is because there hasn't been enough interest. I mean, that hasn't been emphasized enough in the past. But the other part of it is you have there's a perception of a glut of late 20s, 30-year-olds, and they've just they've stalled. they have a degree, but their degree didn't really lead them to having employment right then and there. Yeah, and so I mean, I think that's the disconnect that has happened. And so then along with the emphasis on trades, there's like, yeah, you know, be trained to be able to work and do something that's going to make you money as soon as you're finished, you know. And so, I mean, I think that whole thing, that's part of the component that has emphasized trades. I don't know. You know better than I, but.
No, I agree. I agree that I'll just say there's systems that work really well, but definitely if you get a degree and then you don't get a job, it's hard on people. It's hard on kids, and you know.
Right. Right.
And if you chose a degree field too, and you're not, that's not the career you want to get into as well. I'll just say there's problems with that. And
right.
Yeah.
Well, no, and you. Yeah, those are, I mean, from a standpoint of a parent, you know, if you work really hard to get your kid through the goalpost, you know, you've done and finally he's got there and he doesn't have a job that he can acquire with that thing that you've worked so hard to help him get, you know, that would be,
annoying.
And there's a lot of parents in that position.
All right.
Yeah. All right, well, what else is new in the school district?
Well, new is almost always, you know, first of all, what you were saying at the beginning of the conversation is I enjoy summer. I enjoy May and graduation and all the things that we do to help students finish, get their credits, I'll just say get their diploma, but also for us to hire for the new, or when we have staff that are resigning or retiring, replacing, the budget stuff, all the things that we need to do to get ready for this next school year. I enjoy that. I enjoy the summer, and we have lots of projects. We're going to have a vestibule for basically an interior pathway into the high school where it should be a single entrance, and we're going to try to make it really hard to get through all these other entrances where if you've ever been to Central, where you have a single point where people come in, and then they get checked in, and then they have to go to their locations or classes. We want to have that same thing, so having that vestibule done this summer, painting the high school, it should have a new paint job as well.
So go back to the vestibule. Where's it going to be?
It's the main entrance of the high school.
Okay.
So think of how you normally enter the high school, into the office. We're going to have a corridor now, and once you're in, you are going to the left to the 50s wing, or going to the right in the 70s wing, or going to the office, but it's all going to be enclosed, self-contained, with a person checking you in, with the goal of making sure that kids don't just come in from all the other doors that we have.
That's only going to work if you hold employees accountable.
Yeah.
Because I spend quite a bit of time up there and go to a game and watch how many kids let other kids in that back door.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's people standing right there, administrators, just turning a you know what I mean? Because it's like, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
we have to. It's that kind of stuff too, where, hey, at the end of school they can exit, or during lunchtime they can exit from all kinds of places.
Down by the gym or wherever.
But when it's time to start school again, main entrance. When they're coming back from lunch, main entrance.
Wow.
So
Well,
it's a
and
goal.
that, yeah, I mean, and the primary reason for that is security.
Yes, safety,
Okay.
security,
Right.
supervision even.
Right, and I totally get that. It's just when you have a big complex like the high school. I mean, let's say that we're doing a game or an event in the gymnasium or whatever it's like. You know, it's not practical to haul a whole bunch of equipment.
Yeah. After school, we'll have I'll just say, for the sporting entrance, complex side, that'll be open.
Well, if I go up there during school hours, I always go to the office.
Main entrance.
If it's between while classes in session.
Right. Yeah.
But like after, it's completely different.
Yeah. But you're right. Things are only as good almost for everything based on the will and follow through of the adults that are charged.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's so we got to hold kids to a standard. We got to hold each other to a standard. We got to implement this. If we really want safety and supervision and security, then these are the
It
things that we
might
have
be
to
hard at first, but I think it gets easier as time goes on,
Yeah.
right? Once they get conditioned.
Well, I'm thinking of those, 150 kids that go to YFC for lunch, for tacos. Yeah, they're going to have to make the hike around the corner and.
Well, they can leave. I'll just say they can leave. They can leave at lunchtime, whichever door is easiest.
Right.
But when they come back in,
They've got to go through the
we
front.
want them. I mean, and then if others can convince me, like George, let's do this.
Yeah.
But I'll be in that. Like we just put in a vestibule to create safety, security, and supervision.
you're just putting eyes on them too. You know they're. You know what I mean? Like there's.
Yeah.
Probably a camera right there too, so you know who's coming or going. You know what I mean? And who's in the building.
It should create a higher level of safety, supervision, and security for us that we haven't had. And then, like I said, we'll the interior courtyard. We've been cleaning it up over and over the last 2 years to just make it seem like a functional, usable space versus just empty grass. And we're going to again do that by the courtyard that's close to the cafeteria on the interior, make an asphalt walkway park, just call it an asphalt walkway through the back so that people could get through. And, then we're going to paint the whole complex, and it's going to have more black. So it's going to have, blue, white, and black, but the black accent will be a dominant color. And then we'll still have a lot of blue and gray and white. So it's going to be nice. Kind of like when we did the middle school with the Wildcat Center, we also painted the middle school.
Yeah.
Freshened everything up.
Yeah.
When you talk about courtyards, you're talking about like those grassy areas that are inside?
On the inside,
Yeah.
the big one we used to have,
Yeah.
we've removed all the grass, and then we put in rock, and then we made like a little amphitheater location too. And then we have a volleyball court and a basketball court inside the
Really?
courtyard.
You know how many times I've ever been in those in my whole career of going to school there? Either of them? None.
Yeah.
0.
So what they look like before is just really unkept weeds, and just.
That's what they look like when
You want to make it a hangout space.
Well, at least not.
Or at least pleasant looking.
Just
It's
not
safe.
weeds. Yeah.
It's a safe area.
Yeah. And with benches and.
I want to say
tables.
back in the days, one of them was the teacher's smoking area.
Maybe.
I think it was. I think so.
We could have
Like-
gone outside when I was young. I mean, that was a normal thing too.
Right.
Yeah. We don't really. That does not happen now. At least not today.
Well, there's way less people that smoke. That is for sure.
Yeah, but no, that is funny. I'd totally forgotten how that when I was in high school, you'd go by the teacher's lounge and you could smell smoke. Yeah. And, I mean, but it wasn't, it was just part of life then.
Yeah, normal.
We have $3 million worth of HVAC projects starting today. So we have the 70s wing of the high school is going to get air conditioning
Finally.
this year. The downstairs of the middle school will get air conditioning this year.
The 70s wing
Greenwood.
is the wing that sits on end, right?
The concrete side, basically.
Yeah, that's so hot in there in the spring, like in the late spring. It is
And-
brutal.
and
And the early
summer,
fall, too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get. What happened again is like when we first opened Central. When I got here, it was right away. Why do they get air conditioning? And how come we don't get air
Right,
conditioning?
right,
And
right.
that's not fair, or that's not right, or that's not. So it really became, once that building got air conditioning,
Everybody. It's-
I've now over 8 years, this will be around almost $9 million worth of going for grants, using district funds, getting loans if we needed to get loans, $9 million to modernize our HVAC.
That old wing, at least when I was in school, that was like math and science.
Still,
And that, I mean, math, you got to concentrate. Like, it's pretty important to be focused. And it's hard to focus when it's 90 degrees in that room, 85.
math, language arts, social studies now.
Is it? Language arts and social studies used to be up on the back side of the commons.
Yeah.
Like, back where, like,
So
the career
I'll just say
center
the
was.
70s wing, math, science, social studies, art,
And senior lockers.
music.
Senior lockers, right?
Yes.
Yep.
50s wing, more science. A little bit, you do have some science and some social studies, but a lot of science and special education.
Yeah, all the
resource
way down
room,
on the
Spanish, EL,
It
ELL.
hasn't changed much. I mean, when I walk in there, it still has the same feel. I mean, not like a bad feel by any means. Aesthetically, like it's comfortable.
Just to give you some more, it's like 50s wing. It'll be 75 years old this year.
Crazy, man.
The 50s wing.
Yeah.
The 70s wing will be 50 years old.
Yeah, 50 plus.
This year. Greenwood is 75 years old. The Wood Ag Building, 70 years old. Willow, 101 years old.
How old's Riveria? We don't even. The school
Riveria,
district
yeah,
doesn't have Riveria anymore.
it'd be in the time of Willow.
Yeah,
and
right around
so
the
somewhere
same.
100 years old, which we don't have anymore. Island City will be around 50 years old this year.
Wow.
The Grand Middle School will be around 50 years old. So sometimes I like for people to know, like, yes, I'm happy that we have nice facilities, but 50 years old is like the newest.
Right.
75.
Central.
Yeah, well, Central and CTE and what we're trying. But my point is, like, the schools that these other locations outside of Central or CTE or the Wildcat Center, 50, 75, 100.
Greenwood fall in the same category.
Greenwood's
right
in
around
that
there?
75.
75.
Yeah. So and we've updated. We put in new plumbing. We put in HVAC. We put in seismically retrofitted things. We've done a lot, but it just takes money, and it takes, like, to me, I prefer new. I prefer updated.
Yeah.
I prefer more state-of-the-art everything. So the reality is I'm really happy, but we still have older facilities, and over time, that means that we need to keep investing.
Right.
Yeah, so that's important.
So, and I know we've gone over this again, but remind me then, because the question is well, like, yeah, that's why we pay taxes, so then the taxes that citizens pay, where does that money go and what is it for? I mean, just generally, does
Yeah.
it, and how does it apply it to retrofitting buildings and doing
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
So I'll just say taxes pay, in terms of a state school fund, whatever we get from property taxes, which is likely, 15 to 20% of the state school fund. The other is just income taxes for many jobs that we have. And then they give some money also from corporate taxes, which is our student investment account. But it's really our personal income, plus some property taxes that pay for day-to-day operations in a state school fund or for a lot of the state resources.
So the money that we pay for schools locally, does
Yeah.
that go straight to the state and then they distribute it? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or whoever the tax collector is, and then the tax collector,
right,
Union
right.
County tax, boom, goes to the state, and then the state gives whatever portion that we're supposed to get.
Okay.
And I would just say it's somewhere near $3 million that we wind up getting.
Okay.
Now, and that from property taxes
Right.
from Union County.
Right.
The reality is, if you are in a smaller town and you don't have a huge tax base, then you're getting all of this other tax dollars from the state, and they're getting other, like, I'll just call it, they're other people's property taxes or other
Right.
people's
Right. Okay.
income taxes, because they don't draw enough resources to be able to sustain a school district.
Let's take like Embler. Mm-hmm.
So-
Are they kind of in that place?
I would say the smaller,
Yeah.
Because imagine what you would have to tax all the Embler
city-
residents,
right.
to be able to have 40 or I'll just say 40 teachers or 30 teachers and then 30 parapros and then a superintendent. Like, you would have to tax the crap out of them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Your taxes pay for things, right? And they're really meaningful things, but it's really all the people's taxes throughout the state of Oregon, or all the companies' taxes.
So it couldn't go on.
That is what gets distributed to us, to bigger
Okay.
places, to smaller places, so that we can have our school districts.
But only $3 million a year
Of taxes are what we collect.
back
Now,
into. Okay.
now, if we pass a bond on top of that,
Right.
that's where taxpayer dollars also contribute. So on top of what I just said for state school fund, if we say, hey, please pass a bond, it's going to be $32 million for building new central, putting a new CTE building,
Right.
doing all the infrastructure things that we need to do for remodeling the gym, remodeling the auditorium. Then it becomes a 20-year bond, and we wind up saying, you know, for that $32 million that you passed, we're going to pay that back over 20 years. So we're going to basically ask for $1.7, $1.6 million each year to be
Right.
able to pay back these taxes. And that's where your land gets levied,
Right.
$1.91 per thousand of assessed value. So if you have a $100,000 home, you're going to be paying $191. You know, if you have a $200,000, I mean, now it's almost $400. So my point is, and that's you guys approving, or that's public approving,
Right.
For us to have better facilities. And we don't get enough state school fund where I can just say, hey, I got enough money to rebuild the high school. I'm going to do that 50s wing that's 75 years old, and that the 70s wing that's 50 years old. I got $40 million, or I got $60 million to rebuild, because we don't get that kind of money.
Right.
We get enough to like pay people, which
Sustained.
is 80 to 85, sometimes 87% of our payroll goes to people, and then the other 13% is like operations, facilities, maintenance, special programs, curriculum, all the little things that you're going to also do to run a school district, or that you need to have a school district. So we get enough to put some money into high-cost capital projects or 5-year maintenance plan. And then if we have a little extra, anytime I get extra, I pretty much put it into high-cost capital projects, 5-year maintenance plan, so I can get lots of projects done. I rarely use it in a way where it's like, we're going to start like adding a lot of staff. We're going to put in a lot of these things. Sometimes I do with I'll just say grants that we get, or investments that are supported by the state that have an outcome where you're supposed to improve something, and you can add a staff member to improve it. But the reality is, if I get one-time money, I almost always look at one-time money as like fix one-time problems, or use that money to address long-term needs with facilities. This last year when we had some one-time money, I put it into our PERS reserve. Our PERS is going up. At the time it was supposed to be 6.5%. Now that they did an investment from a House bill from the state, it's going to be more like 5% for our school district. But the reality is our PERS rates went up 5%. For our school district, that's around $750,000 more per year that you have to pay for people in your system. And where am I going to get that $750,000? So,
Right.
of course, it's state school fund. That means now what was 82% of me giving towards payroll is now 85%, because now I have to pay $750 more for PERS. But the extra money I had, I put $1.5 million into a PERS reserve account, while we already had created a PERS reserve of about $1 million, and then I just kind of increased it a little bit more this year to make it almost 2.9 million. So now I have roughly, by the end of, by around July, I'll have $3 million in PERS reserves. So now I can start drawing those dollars. So when I have these PERS rate increases, I can start using some of that money to help pay those extra costs.
To catch the offset.
Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff is what, very strategic, but I would just say when we pass facilities bonds, it is our taxpayers paying for most of that. If I'm lucky enough to get grants like awesome grants that are $4.5 million, or now $6.5 million, I'll get those $6 million from the state if you agree to pass a bond that's at least the same value of that
Right.
$6 million, which makes $12 million to us. So it's 50 cents on the dollar, and it creates this tax rate, which is a lot, I'll just say,
Right.
much smaller for everyone. So those are like strategic things, and I'm always thankful that people want to see our facilities improve. But the reality is, like, if you want better businesses, or if you want better learning outcomes, if you want more quality of life, or more potential for good health, more potential for good jobs, you have to have good schools, and then good schools need to have pretty good infrastructure or pretty good quality learning environments so that it can create all these outcomes. And so if you don't invest, I'll just say it's hard on kids, or it's hard on staff.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Well, and what I'm trying to help people understand, the public out there, because again, I have to rethink it every time, is that so when you improve an HVAC system or you're making building improvements, those are all in the same category as like if you saved a chunk of money to replace a whole school. It's you're increasing the quality of that space for learning. That money is not, you're not getting that money someplace. You've got to figure out that is extra money that you need in order to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I would just say, hunt. Like I have to feel like we go hunt for resources. Can I set aside $500,000 to $750,000 a year to address 5-year maintenance things or high cost things? Yes. $750,000 goes really fast in today's world too.
Right.
Yeah.
For what we want to fix or what needs to be repaired, like putting in new boilers this year at the high school was $450,000 for 3 new boilers.
Okay. Wow.
Well, that's the cost. I'll just say there was problems with Greenwood's HVAC where it wasn't working consistently, and I needed to tie in another boiler, and then I needed to bring in 4 different units. That was like $82,000 to address some HVAC issues. So in our schools, just think it's $100,000 a pop usually to fix some big things that need to be fixed. So boilers or HVAC units, make them new or make them modernized. You get enough money to maybe do those things slowly, and that's how. When I say we've done $9 million in HVAC over 8 years, none of it has been from some state fund, a grant. It's been me using high cost capital really state school fund and putting it into a high cost capital project fund or a 5-year maintenance fund, and then $4 million of it came from a loan.
And when you say fund, does that mean something that's gaining interest?
Yes.
Okay.
Something that we try hard, to
Okay.
put money into a big pot.
Yeah.
So when we get bond, let's say we get a bond for $4.45 million to get the Wildcat Center. So I get this bond, and then I have all this other money that I have in reserves or whatever. I put it into a government investment pool, and just pray that it gets us,
because that's free money.
$200,000 in interest,
Right.
$300,000.
Right.
There was when we did the Wildcat Center. There was a time we had about $11 million from all our high cost capital projects, 5-year maintenance plans, plus the bonds. That $11 million got us around $400,000 in interest each year.
Wow.
But it still has to be used towards facilities, or it still has to be used towards
The interest does.
Yeah.
Right.
So my point is it just lets us do more projects.
Could you imagine if you would have put that into Bitcoin, how much you would have? Oh my goodness! We'd have nice schools.
Yeah, then we could have lost.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, which is why
But
that's why I brought that up, though,
Yeah.
is because obviously you're not going to put it. You're not taking chances with the money.
You can't.
You're putting it, you can't.
It's government investment. You can only do those types of things. You can't do other stuff. But the reality is we have to be strategic, and I'm for me pretty driven. When I first saw the facilities here, and I love LeGrand. I went to college here, met my wife here, had our first child here, wanted to give my life to this community, and I just was looking around the whole thing, and I just knew I wanted things to look like the new Central or the new CTE or the auditorium and gymnasium, and that we can't be okay with just that. We had to keep figuring out ways to replace 100-year-old things or replace 75-year-old things or update, modernize these things so that we can have really good facilities, and not just the Central kids got a good facility. Or not just the Central teachers got a good facility.
Right.
Everyone has to have good facilities, and
Agree.
think of it as, environmental equity, or think of it as proportionality for every location that we serve or that we have. My mind goes into everyone deserves great learning spaces and great learning environments.
Well, and there are people that are like, well, yeah, but a 50-year-old school, and they would say that a 50-year-old school obviously is still operating and it's just fine, and all of that is true, you know. But you're right. The appearance of things matter. They really do, and they matter. I mean, if you're a professional and you're thinking about moving into LeGrand, you know, you're going to go visit Greenwood. You're going to go visit. I mean, you might not live, you know, a few blocks from Central, and so that all of that matters. You know, great public safety and good schools, health care.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those things are the tenets of why. I mean, there's a lot of things that draw people to Eastern Oregon and LeGrand naturally, but if any one of those three factors are lacking, people will make a different decision to move somewhere else. So, anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it matters.
Yeah.
It does, and it matters to today's world. So.
Yeah. No, and I'm very, very, very pleased in our school district that way. Sometimes we're at least 70 million, maybe 75 million in the last 8 years of investments in our facilities. Still not perfect, still not great, but if I can get the Wood Ag building as our next project to be done.
So what is that?
So think of our CTE building that's been updated that
Right.
has medical pathways and fabrication. And
Is that
design.
the building
So it's right next to it, and it's a 70-year-old building that
like
has.
out by the practice fields? That building?
It's connected to the high school. It's not. I mean, it's really not connected.
Yeah, but
connected.
it used to be like the AutoCAD and wood shop
Yes.
and all that.
So that has woods, and it has agriculture classes taking place,
Yeah.
and shops for those types of programs. But if I have that look like that other CTE building, or at least a nice big shell that looks updated and modernized, to me that would be the next thing that we could get, especially if I get an awesome grant for $6.5 million. We could wrap up that building, and then the reality is, then you have Greenwood that's 75, and then you have parts of the high school that are more than 75. And when our bond that passed in 2014, it's now going to be around 10 years left. And to me, when that bond expires, that's the time to really try to get Greenwood to be updated and make big decisions for the 50s wings of the high school, 70s wing of the high school. Either remodel from the inside or rebuild somewhere somewhere close by, or rebuild on the spot. So there's a lot of things. I probably won't be working 10 years from now. I see myself as retired. But,
Do you? That can't work.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll be 62 in 10 years. So
Yeah.
So and that'll be 40 years in my career. So I've always had it 35 years for me, 36 years, maybe 37, but not 40 years.
Not 40?
No.
Yeah. It's interesting to me, something that's occurring for the first time is colors and paint. That matters to you. I mean, you kind of, personally, that keys into you.
When we update something,
Yeah.
if you think of this Wildcat Center, almost anything, when we update the track, we made gray sheds that were
Right.
updated and nice. We put in new bleachers. When we did the tennis courts, whenever we do something and we're looking to modernize it, then I want everything in that location to look more modern or more updated as a goal. So it looks clean. You don't want here's something that looks nice and new, and then here's this old thing that's right next to it.
Right. Well, and part of that is the broken window thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you have a broken window that's not replaced, then more windows are going to get
You're
broken.
inviting.
Yeah.
It happened here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
crazy.
it's I just like, I don't have a bias that it has to be new. If it looks updated, and we're keeping the brick while
Yeah.
we're gonna clean the brick, we're gonna stain the brick, we're not gonna repaint the brick, we're not gonna do anything, we're not putting stucco over brick and making something look different. The reality is I want things to be aesthetically pleasing, and brick looks good still, but you better do something to make it look nicer, newer.
Right.
And so clean it, stain it, and repaint some places. So it's the reality is when things get done, make it all look updated if you can.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yep.
I got some questions about some job openings.
Yes.
15 open jobs right now in the district. I'm looking on the website. Assistant principal at the high school. We'll just start right there. What's going on with that?
Well, Eric Freeman, really thankful for him. Did a lot of great things for our school district. Became an elementary principal in Roseburg. Last week he was offered that job, and he accepted that job. So we have to fill, replace his position.
Natural progression is what I would call that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I think most people don't want to be career vice principals.
Yeah, we were talking about that before.
They don't. After 5 or 7 years, they typically want to be a principal.
Yeah, let me be the good guy for a little while.
It's hard. When you're dealing with problems, you do think like, I'm ready to deal with problems, but for me to also have more vision and implement my vision, and to do more instructional leadership things, or for me to set the culture, help to set the culture. And I think at a principal level, it's a different type of leadership role than day-to-day discipline or day-to-day supervision.
Right.
So
what about the choir job? Is Durfee retiring?
No, that's a sadness to me, a sadness to all, I think, to our community. He's from Nissa, and
They poached him?
Yep. And,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
He's from Nissa. His family's from Nissa. His wife's family's from Nissa.
Yeah.
They've been talking about wanting to get back towards Nissa. Cassie and her family, I think, they have some needs to be close to their grandparents or their own parents.
Yeah.
And they want to be there during that time.
Those are some big shoes to
Yeah,
fill.
to me, it's I wish we could just keep him. It bothers me. It hurts me. Really thankful for him. Really thankful for his wife. Really thankful for his family.
Yeah.
They were impactful.
Yeah.
I wish we could keep him forever.
All right. I see. So that 6th grade football job has been open for a while.
They were filled yesterday.
Oh, they did. So your guys' website says current as of 6/10/2025.
So yesterday is when I was told they were filled.
Okay,
and that's
good.
So that would be a good one for you, Dodzy. That
if there weren't parents,
fifth grade needs a coach, and we're not. Long story short, City of LeGrand basically said, we don't think we want to do tackle football anymore. You guys take over tackle football.
Yeah.
And so to us, it became like 6th grade tackle football, then right into 7th grade. Like we need you guys to keep 5th grade. We don't want to do 5th grade. We don't do So the reality is that we asked them, like, you guys keep doing 5th grade. We'll take on 6th grade, but we need kids learning fundamental skills on how to tackle, running some plays, etc. And we need you guys to have a 5th grade program, and we'll take on the 6th grade program, because the reality is if you want a good high school program, you need to have a good progression, feeder system, all of that. And so the city is going to keep doing 5th grade. We're going to do 6th grade, and we've been able to get ourselves into a league that's a Hermiston, Pendleton, Walla Walla,
Perfect.
Milton Freewater type league that should be, but it's a little more travel. But
we did that when I was in middle school. We traveled quite a bit.
So we're going to have them traveling in this kind of football league now.
Good.
And but I don't think they have. We're in charge of the 6th grade, so we're not in charge of 5th grade. So we don't work. I mean, although we're going to have practices at the city, Pioneer Park, and we're going to try to have our 6th grade show and model and support to 5th graders what to do.
Yeah.
but the 5th grade doesn't have coaches, or it's the city that's going to decide who the coaches are.
See, if I wanted to coach football, I would have applied, but I wouldn't have applied for the 5th grade job. I would have applied for 6th grade. I coached middle school football for 8 years. I don't want to coach football.
No.
I don't like parents.
We do have.
I don't even like them doing my job.
We should have a 7th grade football opening.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't like parents. They burnt me out. Like, I can't.
Well, I mean, I would say it's common what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So the role of a parent, in a sport, the role of an athlete, the role of a coach too, all of these things I think we need to reestablish, For me, people don't always hear this side of me, but like our parents need to support their kid to enjoy the sport. You can look out, like I usually tell parents, you can look out for the safety of your child. If we're physically doing something,
Right.
You need putting them in harm's way.
You need to do that.
100%.
And if we're mentally, if we're saying hard, if people are saying things that like are super condemning and critical to their self-esteem, and they're crushing them, I think you should be able to tell a coach, like, you are hurting my child by something.
Yep.
But the reality is, like, our job should be to support our kids to have a good experience as best they can, to not be deeply, not make it your experience, make it their experience, to support the program so that the outcome of winning or the outcome of learning the skills is the most important thing, and really just embracing the experience and the joy that comes with doing something. But when we get overly, this is about what I want, this is about what my kid is the best, like,
Yeah, it
like
drives me
it's
crazy.
it's just like the coaches know, like, they see to the skills that they're looking for. They see the habits that they're looking for too, the characteristics that they're looking for, and most coaches are trying to do the best that they can to create an outcome that's winning, or to create an outcome that's I'll just say positive. They're not trying to have horrible experiences.
So everybody that knows me well in sports knows that I'm a purist. Like, I'm a purist at heart. Like, when it comes to sports and roles and all that, like, and today it's not pure. I mean, it's wild. I mean, I even see it here. You go, like, there's at a varsity baseball game, there's a mom in the dugout. Like, what? When I was that age, like, if the mom even came within 15 feet of the dugout, she's getting shooed off. You know what I mean? Like, no, go get out of here. And that kind of stuff, I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't. and just, yeah, like the parents thinking that their role is something different than what it should be. Like, get out here and coach if you want to do that. Like, and I just don't. There's just not enough motivation for me personally. I mean, I think we have great coaches here. I do.
That's one of the strengths, I'd say, of our school district.
We don't have the greatest parents all the time. I'll say that.
Well,
We have, yeah.
We have good parents.
I wind up saying we have great coaches, great kids, great families. We do. It's not perfect, but
Right.
honestly, it's not horrible either relative to other
Oh,
locations.
no,
Right.
it's not.
Well,
Yes,
and
relative.
I
Yep.
think that, I mean, it's just hard. It's difficult because the natural progression is that when a kid goes into sports for the first time, he's learning to do things that he doesn't want to do. I mean, a whole part of the team is that you're not going to let I know you don't want to run laps. No, I know you don't want to go to practice today, but you made a commitment, and that, I mean, that's the parental voice that I used, because that kid is adapting to that. The other adaptation is that I'm trusting my kid. I mean, I'm trusting that coach to take care of my kid. And so there's a certain amount of me letting go, okay, in order. And I think that a lot of that balance has been upset. Parents just they're not being trained to let go at the same, I mean, I think that's where it's complicated at. Both the parent and the kid are learning things when a kid begins sports, and it doesn't matter if it's choir or whatever it is.
Yeah, any extracurricular
Right, yeah.
activity.
I mean, you are, as a parent, you're having to take your hands off of that kid in some manner. and trust somebody else to do what's best for them. And that's just hard. That's a hard thing.
I agree. It is hard. It is hard, but it's also the natural progression of life. I usually say that, like,
practicing doing hard things, and I mean, when I interact with kids that I see are really struggling to mature in some things, often the case is like they don't want to do hard things, or they're in a position where it's like they run up against something, and rather than determining to fight through it, they change course and they do something else.
I would just say, once in a while I'll tell a parent, like, part of being responsible is allowing your child to be responsible. We need to allow them to have success, but we also need to allow them to fail.
Right.
100%.
And whatever they need to go through, it's good. And sometimes on the other side of that, that's where you see the most growth or the most change, or now you see a fire that's different. But like, I'm always big on part of life is not having enjoyment and learning from that and seeing what you can do to get better from it. And I don't know, I'm back to, like, we need to, like, love our kids, encourage our kids, help them to get strong at things, but also let go and let them have their life and see what happens too, and then be there when you need to be there, but don't be in front. Unless it's really unsafe. Unless someone's hurting your child. I'm usually big on, if someone's hurting your child, you need to protect your child. I get it. I want you to protect your child.
It's weird. Like, it feels like, to me, like we live in a world today where parents are so much less engaged with the kids at home. Okay, like, there's not a lot of families sit down and have dinner. Not a lot of families have, like we did when we were kids. But they're so much more protective of their kids.
It's how we show love.
You detached at home, but outside in the real world, you're gonna hover. It's weird. It's like, it's almost like the opposite of what in my head, how I think things should be.
No, I do think that, back to what I was saying, sometimes for people to show that love to their child, or what they think is like deep love or deep protection, is, I will advocate, I will be there. I had a bad experience, people mistreated me, the teachers mistreated me, the coaches mistreated me, the administration mistreated me, the system mistreated me. I need to be really there, and I need to advocate in a way that makes it really clear to people that they're not going to do this to me, or they're not going to do this to my child. Right. You get some of that, but you also, but there's also, back to LeGrand, there's a lot of families too that, like, it's your experience.
I agree with you.
It's your, it's I'm there for you when you need. If you want me to help you with catching things, throwing things, picking up things, I'll be there for you with that. If you want me to get you extra training sessions, I'll help to make sure that you have personal coaching or things for that. And I just know there's also a lot of great families that they just want great memories, or they just want great experiences, or they just want, I'll just say, good friendships or good habits that get formed. That's what they're looking for, and I'd say probably 70 to 80% just are there. Yeah. Sometimes 20% to 10% my way, or what I want, and that doesn't work out perfect. But the reality is, relative to other towns, because we think we have pretty good coaches. I'll agree with you on that, 100%. Because we have really good coaches, I'd say people are fairly supportive of our coaches and the decisions that they make. Yeah.
Well, thank you, George.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to talk, and we always go to a different level, which I always love. It's a conversation that we get back to human nature and talk about how people learn fundamentally, not just students, but people, adults, so.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Feel the same.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it, man.
Yep.
So, you want to get us out of here?
Let's do it. On this day, June 10th, 1692, the first victim of the Salem witch trials, Bridget Bishop, is hanged after being found guilty of witchcraft in the colony of Massachusetts. 1752, on this day, Benjamin Franklin tests the lightning conductor with his kite flying experiment. 1793, the first public zoo opens in Paris, France. 1905, And this is kind of, I mean, this is kind of like relevant because of the area we live in. The first forest fire lookout tower is put into operation in Greenville, Maine. 1977 on this day, Apple Computer ships its first Apple II computers. And then a little under 20 years later, in 1996, Intel releases the 200 megahertz Pentium chip. 2024, on this day, Apple announces it'll be using generative AI on its devices and in its update for Siri in a partnership with OpenAI. The #1 song in America on this day in 1985, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Tears for Fears. And then the quote of the day comes from Earl Nightingale, never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplishment. The time will pass anyways. One more time. Never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. The time will pass anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
Again for being with us. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you, Eastern Oregon. Glad that you're here with us today.
Yep.
Yep. And we'll see you soon.